In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. I have a question that's been on my mind for a long time. I've offered to debate scholars who have not responded. And the question I have is this: why should I or any Muslim or Christian or Jew believe Abraham existed when, in fact, there is absolutely no archaeological or anthropological evidence that such a character did, in fact, exist? Now, I know the city of Ur existed between 3000 and 2001 BC, or in the Middle Bronze Age. Archaeologists have proven that. But that proof does not prove that Abraham existed any more than the existence of Japan proves that Godzilla is real, or that the existence of the North Pole proves that Santa Claus is real. I know that the language of Ur, U-R, was an ancient Sumerian dialect, and that following it, there was the Akkadian language. But again, neither one of those languages prove to me that Abraham once lived in the city of Ur in ancient Mesopotamia. I have read the Torah dozens of times over the past 53 years. I took a course in Hebrew too, so I am very familiar with the Genesis account of the Saga of Abraham in chapter 12, verses 1 through 3, and Genesis chapters 15 and 22. Strangely, there is no divine book written by Abraham. Otherwise, it would be in the Torah, wouldn't it? A saga is a heroic narrative. It is not a historical account. It's like the heroic narrative of Paul Bunyan or Johnny Appleseed. The Torah tells the saga of Abraham. It is a narrative. It is not history. It was made up by Jewish scribes after the Babylonian captivity, when Jews were released by King Cyrus the Great of Persia about 538 BC. The story is a myth. Furthermore, I have no idea where all the pictorial descriptions of the character Abraham come from. They are used by Christians, Jews, and Muslims. And interestingly, they always depict the character as having been a white man. What is that all about? In Islam, there are not supposed to be pictures of any kind depicting the prophets. There are no physical descriptions of Abraham in the Torah. Now, Muslim scholars of yesteryear defined two ways to classify assertions in the Quran. They are: one, muhkam, which means a statement that is definitive and clear, and two, mustashabih. It means allegorical. Allegorical. Now, the Abrahamic saga is expressed in the Quran too. That narrative in the Quran overlaps more or less with that Torah narrative. But that does not prove that Abraham once lived. It just proves that allegories are useful as a guide to promote good behavior. My position is that the saga of Abraham in the Quran is an allegory under mustashabih. Maybe it can impart some moral meaning, but it is not obligatory for Muslims to believe Abraham actually existed, because There's no evidence that he did, unlike the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who is buried in the city of Medina. Now, here is the big problem. I'm getting to this big problem. Zionists, since 1948, have been justifying the Nakba, or theft of Palestinian land, based on the Abrahamic Saga. They have murdered hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and driven millions of Palestinians, Muslims and Christians, out of Palestine beginning in 1948. Now listen closely. If Muslims believe that Abraham actually lived and that the story of Abraham is true, then all Muslims everywhere are in a logical trick bag. What I mean is that they too believe that God gave the land to the Jews. Logically, that belief predisposes Muslims to let Israel take all the land and drive them into some desert somewhere to die. Now, this is happening in slow motion. The logical predisposition is happening in slow motion. Over the course of 75 or 76 years, you can see there's something in the thinking of Muslims, in their subconscious, that predisposes them to lose, to not be united, to always punctuate, so to speak, as they nod in agreement with the rabbis that this land is ours and no one else's. I understand, I really do, that classifying the Abrahamic Saga as a myth will upset mythological bloodlines. So be it. I personally could care less. I don't believe a bloodline qualifies you to get anything that doesn't belong to you. Our true identity, in my opinion, in my belief, is spiritual, not biological. That's what the Quran teaches. That is what essentially is taught in the New Testament. So, to any Muslims who may hear this and want to respond in any way they want, let me say this. The only important thing for Muslims is faith in Allah and divine providence. I am Dr. Stephen Nur Ahmed. Peace be unto you.